In almost any debate about gun control, somebody is sure to point out that the Nazi regime of Germany introduced gun control legislation in order to disarm the Jews and leave them defenseless. Well, that sounds like a claim that needs investigating, and I'm going to try to do that while remaining as neutral as possible, neither pro-gun nor anti-gun. Let's just look at the historical facts. Perhaps the most surprising thing to learn is that historically, Germany has always had quite strict laws. According to the historian and journalist Reinhard Scholzen, as far back as the year 1400, the authorities were trying to deal with crime by limiting access to weapons. But things really came to a head in 1545. Following the Peasants' Revolt, citizens were required to surrender their swords and morning stars. And then the authorities set about trying to restrict ownership of arms to basically the army and huntsmen. Fast forward to the March Revolution of 1848, and there was great demand for a relaxation of gun control laws. This was opposed by the military, who said that it wasn't a very good idea for members of the public to be involved in the task of keeping the peace. Now, at the time, there wasn't actually a specific law regarding weapons. There were various laws and regulations here and there that together amounted to very strict controls on weapons. After the First World War, though, the victorious Allies demanded that German civilians be disarmed, and so in 1920 a law was passed to that effect. In 1928 a new law came into effect which, perhaps surprisingly, actually relaxed gun control very slightly. It was still very heavily regulated, but private citizens could have a weapon if they could prove two things. One, that they were competent enough to handle it, and two, that they actually had a need for one. That was the situation when the Nazis came to power. Not many people had weapons because not many people were able to prove that they actually needed one. Now, Stephen Halbrook is an American lawyer who opposes strict gun control legislation, and he decided to investigate this. And according to his research, almost the first thing the Nazis did when they came to power was to go through the gun registration lists and identify their political opponents and disarm them. To this end, they simply declared that Jews, by virtue of being Jews, were not competent to handle firearms. But it was also a handy excuse for them to search their homes, which was probably more important to them than actually finding weapons. Most famously, Albert Einstein's home was searched, and the closest thing they could find to a weapon was a bread knife. So the Nazis didn't actually need to enact a new law in order to make this happen. They just needed to reinterpret an existing law. It wasn't until 1935 that they passed a law specifically banning the issuance of gun permits to Jews, but by then it was probably academic. In 1938, a new law was passed which also denied certain groups the right to carry guns, but also relaxed the rules for certain other people, namely members of Nazi organizations who were now allowed to carry weapons without a permit. So it's not completely accurate to say that the Nazis introduced gun control legislation in order to disarm the Jews, but it is true that they used existing laws to justify it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends about my channel. You can also follow my blog and follow me on Google+ and Twitter. You'll find links on my website. And if you'd like to send me a postcard, here's the address.
I actually didn't get a chance to show you what this all looks like covered in snow.